Hey everyone, happy Friday. We're looking at the end of the school year here, and as we kind of look at that, there's some things that we really want to look at when it comes to um, Google Classroom, Canvas, making sure that we kind of put a nice bow on any courses that we have, anything that we really need as we look at some of those pieces in in those two areas that we may have our digital spaces for our classroom. So today we're just going to look at Canvas, and this should be a relatively short video because Canvas is nice in that there's not that many things as we go towards the end of the year that we just need to double check before we kind of send off for the next semester. So, um, some of the things that they go into it is from our end, from the technology side, we kind of look at, where we need to pause some of our syncing with our with PowerSchool because that can mess up some things or it can put some courses in different areas. So we first need to just we'll take a look at that. We'll make sure that that's all shored up. But from your side, one of the best things that we can really advocate for is making sure that grades are up to date as possible. So, obviously during this, it's a little bit different than when grades are not. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into one of these courses and just show you maybe some other ways that can help you out as you look at some of these. So I'm just jumping into a random course. I see all my pieces here. I'm going to go to grades, which for me should be blank in this, just because I don't have any grades in this course. But as I look at these grades, I want to make sure that these are the most up to date as possible. So I want to make sure that I have as many as I can turned in, or um, turned in from the teacher side, meaning you have them, graded and ready, and there's a grade in here for you, especially if you have grade pass back with PowerSchool. That's something else to take a look at. If you don't have grade pass back set up with PowerSchool, let us know and we can pass along some of that information. Otherwise, if you're just using the Canvas gradebook occasionally and then manually inputting grades into PowerSchool, I would just make sure that as many of those grades that you can get out of Canvas and into PowerSchool as early as possible, I would do so, just to make sure that you have those grades passed along. If you do have grade pass back, I would try to get that sync set up and ready and do it as much as possible so that if the off chance the course disappears or your Canvas course decides to go into completed, then we can make sure that you have all those grades passed over into PowerSchool. So that's the first thing. Verify any grades that you need to get done and try to do it as soon as possible. So, we don't want to wait until the last second or the day before. Um, as much as some situations, waiting for students and making certain accommodations for those students that changes the game a little bit. But as much as we can, as soon as we can, get those grades over. And then if little changes need to be made in PowerSchool for certain students, then we can do that. But as much as you can, try to get those grades into PowerSchool and ready to go for when that gets done. The second part, if you do want to make sure and you have most of your grades in there and you think that, hey, we're getting to the end of the semester and I want to export those grades, you can use the export function here and exports any grades that you want, and it'll export it as a CSV file for you to download, just like that popped up. I'll be able to download this CSV file, will open up in Excel, and then I'll be able to look at those grades in Excel, or I can put it into Google Sheets if I need to. And I do have a backup just in case something happens. If I need to pull any extra grades, just in case there's something doesn't work. Obviously, with the way grades will be taken during this um, pandemic situation, it may not be as imperative that you have every single grade down to a science. Obviously with pass fail it makes a little bit of a difference. Second, or I should say third, we've looked at grades, we've looked at verifying grades and exporting grades. The next is content. So if there's content that you want to make sure you have, first off, these courses don't go away. So that content is usually packaged and saved, and it's put into your completed courses, and that course is there for good. Now, if you want to export that course package, let's say maybe you are moving to a new school district, and they use Canvas, so it may be a little bit more difficult to send. The first that I would always advocate is sharing it to the comments. The Commons is the best place to kind of have some of that information and share with other people, especially within Warsaw itself. But let's say, I'm going to another district. I don't feel comfortable putting my whole course out there in the Commons. You can download that entire export of your course to a specific spot. So I'm going to jump back out and I'm going to go to settings. And we have import course content and export course content. I'm going to hit export, and I can export the entire course, and it's going to give me a file to download. Now, depending on the size of your course, this can be quick, short, but it's going to give you that progress bar. And as it goes through, it's going to complete, and then you'll have a file that you can then pull, download, and save into any spot on your computer. Now, when you import this later, you need to make sure that it is an IMSCC file that is specific to Canvas, and it makes it readable by Canvas. So that's one. If you just want a file to hold on to and to use later down the road, new district, want to make sure you have it. There it is. Another way to do this is through the Commons. So if we go back to settings, then we can share the entire course to Commons. Now, this is kind of nice because there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can share this entire course, and you can share it with select groups. So let's say I only want to share it with me. So the only person that's going to have access to this is me, and I'll be able to grab it later if I want to pull it into a new course that maybe I will have next semester or next year. Let's say I want to share this with other colleagues. I can share it with all of Warsaw Community Schools, and that group can have it. So anybody in the school district can pull it and use your course as a template for theirs going forward. I can also select specific groups that I might want it to go into. So there are some created ones, and we try to keep these as up to date as possible. If you don't have access to them, let us know. But you can share them specifically with, I just wanted to go to middle school social studies of the history department. So everybody who's in that group will have access in Commons to download this specific course. Okay, and so on and so forth for any of these other groups. So once if I do want to share it public, let's say I do want to share it and I'm going to another district and I don't want to download that file, I can make it public, and I would just, now anybody within Canvas can pull it down and use that course. So that's totally up to you. I'm going to add some of this data in here. What's the title? What's the description? What are some tags I want to add to this? Social studies, math, whatever it may be. It allows me, I guess it forces you to choose an image that'll go along with that file, and then what grade level is it for, and then once I hit share, it's going to put it into Commons for that correct group. So whether it's completely public, just Warsaw, just yourself, and however it may be. If you want to import that content, you'd go back to your course itself, or whatever new course that you may be going into, and then you can import from Commons and you can pull that whole course down, and it's like it never left. So that's kind of two big ways to export content. And there's another way too, if you are setting up a new course in the future, to pull some of that and to be mindful of some of those pieces, so that if you wanted to import course content, you could from just a past course. You don't necessarily have to share it anywhere at the end of a semester. You can just pull in past course content information from a Canvas course that you may have had in the past. So once I would start, if I said, if I had a specific course I wanted to pull, now I see all because of admin rights, but if I wanted to pull a course that I had in the past, I'd just search by name, pull it down, and it's in there. And then I would select all content, and again, that whole course is copied right into this new course that I may have. Last is really just a couple different things. If there's other data, statistics, different pieces that come with quizzes, or there's different settings that you want to make sure don't get changed, you can let us know ahead of time as you kind of wrap up a course that, hey, I don't want this to go away, or I'd like having this setting on, or I'd like this setting off. If you want to create a list and just send those, pass those along to your admins, which is me and Stephanie Spangle. If you just want to send those to us to let us know, hey, these are things that we like in the settings, then you can do so as well. You can also check your settings and see which things are on and off, because there are some things that you can turn on and off at the course level. So feature options, you can turn some of these on and off for your specific course. There are some that are going to be on automatically, and there's some that will default to on. So these are all turned off, but there's some that will default to on, but you still have the option to turn off. So just some things to look at as you go through. Maybe there's certain settings in here you didn't even realize that were set up that you want to make sure in your new course next semester, or maybe even this summer, are ready to go. And like I said, there's some other data pieces that if you have quiz information that you want to export, or outcome information you want to export, you would just have to go to those specific areas and export them. There will be a quick beginning and end of course checklist that I'll pass along, that you can access and take a look at. And like I said, I just went over that end of course checklist so that you can see some of those things. But really, closing up shop for Canvas is pretty straightforward, and just making sure that a couple things are here and there. And the biggest one is making sure that you have grades as much updated as possible, so that you know anything that's going into PowerSchool is up to date, and that's ready for students, and really ready for us as well with this change. That when we look at the grade, we know it's the most up-to-date grade to decide whether or not they passed or failed for that individual quarter. So if you have any questions, like I said, I'm going to pass along that beginning and end of course checklist. Otherwise, good luck. And if you do have questions about closing up shop in your Canvas course as we go into the summer, please let us know. Please reach out, shoot us an email. Again, to me, Jake Cawhorn, Nate Howitt, or Stephanie Spangle, if things come up that you want to make sure you don't lose, or you want to make sure that is still there as we move forward. So again, good luck, and let us know if anything comes up. Thanks.